Welcome or welcome back to my channel. As you know by now, I have recently moved, which means I need to reorganize all of my books. In our new apartment, I have 3 areas that I get to put books in. I have this bookshelf behind me, and then I still have my book cart, and now I also have a built-in bookshelf as well, which is super exciting. So 3 places for books. I have a couple books on the TV stand as well. I think I might move those though. We're gonna see in this video. But we're actually gonna start off by going back in time to organize the built-in bookshelf because I did that first. For some reason I got here and I immediately put my books onto that bookshelf. We're gonna go back in time and then I'll show you what it looks like as of right now because it's definitely gonna change. I have a vision in my mind. Here is what the built-in looks like in all of its glory. I am going to keep it mostly like this. It's mostly gonna stay like this because I actually really like how this looks. So top shelf, I have all of my Harry Potter. Second shelf is fantasy and thrillers. Third shelf is all romance books, which is by far my favorite shelf. I love that shelf so much. And then the fourth shelf is classics, historical fiction, general fiction, kind of a little bit of a hodgepodge there. And then this bottom shelf is nonfiction and some of Jack's books as well. I'm not sure how great you can see right now because we're kind of in a hallway, so the lighting is a little bit trickier in this area. There's one shelf you can't see right now and it's the Harry Potter shelf, which is fine because we're not going to touch that shelf. We're also not going to touch the nonfiction shelf, I don't think we will. Maybe we will. But basically my idea for this shelf is that I'm just going to pull off all of the books I've read this year and then I'll show you where I think I'm gonna put those. We're just gonna try this out. You know, we're gonna trial and error it, see if I like it. If I don't, I'll just put them back. But I am obsessed with this shelf. I think this is the one shelf that I'm like truly obsessed with. Up there, I also really like how my whole little fourth wing section looks, so I might not move that. Obviously, I'm missing fourth wing right now. Jack is reading it. So I'm gonna pull out all of the books I've read this year, see what I think, and then we'll go from there. Okay, I pulled all the books I've read this year off of the shelf, and it's only these, so I'm pretty happy with that because that means I don't have a ton to shuffle around on this shelf. But like I said, I'm leaving Onyx Storm there because I just love how it looks. Kind of on display, and this is the only book I own. I think it's the only book I own with sprayed edges. So I kind of want those sprayed edges like out and proud. You know what I mean? So these are going into my other book space. I'll show you my idea for that in a second because I do want to do a little bit more reorganizing, particularly on this shelf. I actually think it might be just on the shelf that I feel like I need to reorganize because you can see there's like blank spaces now. And I have a couple romances down here that just did not fit on this shelf. So I'm gonna basically just screw all these down and put those up there somehow. Okay, I think I have this shelf how I like it. Ideally, I would have a couple more trinkets that I could put on here, but this is how it's looking like right now. Obviously, didn't change the shelf at all. This shelf, I put a fourth wing there so you could actually see what it normally looks like. I do feel like this stack looks a little bare, so that's why I'm saying like if I had some more trinkets, I could fill this in a little bit better, I feel like. And I feel like I have trinkets somewhere. I am just unsure of where they are because obviously I just moved. I don't really know where I put everything. If I come across some more little cute things I can put on my shelf, I'm going to, but for now this is how it's staying. I think this is actually my favorite part of this shelf is this little fantasy section because I love this little fourth wing section, and since fourth wing is going to grow, I feel like that's going to look so cool on the shelf, mostly because of this little dragon. I'm obsessed with this. Tell me this does not remind you of fourth wing, this little dragon. Anyway, and then I have a couple of thrillers. I only have 3 thrillers there. The rest I have read this year. And then moving on to my romance shelf, this one changed a little bit as you saw. I still really like it though. Wasn't entirely sure what to do with these books because they were originally on the shelf down here. So I just stuck them in this corner because I didn't want to put the hardbacks right here in between all of my Ellen Hilderbrand because having all of my Ellen Hilderbrand together is ideal. Even though all of my Emily Henry doesn't live together, that's fine. I for some reason just really wanted all of my Ellen Hilderbrand together, maybe just because I have so many of her books. I don't know, but really liking how this looks. And of course 7 Year Slip is faced out because that is probably one of my favorite all-time romances ever. And then this cute little trinket I got for Christmas a couple years ago. It's got bees on it. Reminds me of the Magnolia Park series, which they live here. And then I also changed a good bit about this shelf as well. It's the same books on them, just reorganized a little bit differently. I have 1980 1984 Faced Out. I used to love that book when I read it in high school. I kind of want to reread it, maybe eventually. I do have 2 copies of that book. I'm not sure where the other one is at the moment. I might have left it at home, unless it's like staring me in the face and I can't see it. But I'm pretty sure I left it at home, but it's like a relic to me because, like I said, I read that book in high school, but so did my sister, and that copy has both of our annotations in it. It has my sister's annotations and my annotations. So this one is just like my prettier copy, I guess, since I never actually read this copy. I just read the ratty paperback that me and my sister both wrote annotations in. Anyways, then I also added my leather-bound copy of Dante's Inferno, mostly because I felt like this was just lacking something. And then I was like, oh wait, I read that last year. I feel like that would go perfect on the shelf. And I actually do kind of like how this looks. But like I said, I feel like it's missing a trinket. So I need to find some trinkets. I feel like I have some somewhere. Just need to find them and put them on the shelf. And then this nonfiction shelf I didn't touch at all. Okay, I found this little clock to put on this shelf. And then I moved my little TBR jar to this shelf. I'm iffy on if I like this or not though. So I kind of want to see what Jack thinks about it because I'm not sure if I like it or not. It just kind of feels more empty now that I have the clock there, which doesn't really make a ton of sense. But if I don't end up keeping the clock there, I'll put it either on my book cart or on this shelf. We're at area number 2 of book organization. My book cart, I love this book cart. It used to have all of my, well, I was gonna say it had all of my physical TBR on it. It didn't. It just had most of my physical TBR. As you've probably seen, I'm working on getting through my entire physical TBR this year. So I've been vlogging that a lot, which is why I want my physical TBR to have its own separate shelf. So I'm thinking, since my physical TBR does not fit on this book cart, I'm thinking what we'll do is put all of the books that I've physically read on this book cart this year. The ones that I own. I borrow a lot of books from the public library, so obviously those are not going to live on here, but these are just going to be the books that I've read that I own physically. That's the current vision, but it is May and I feel like I haven't read a ton of my own books physically, which is part of the problem that I'm having and part of why I am making this whole TBR series. But we're gonna just set up all the books that I've read this year, see what I think. If I don't like it, I can reorganize it later, you know? Not a big deal. I will say for this top shelf, I think I'm actually just gonna leave it like this because I'm thinking on this top shelf I will just keep all of the books that I've read that month until I do my monthly wrap up. Now this month is a little different because it is May and these are all the books I read in April, but this month's wrap up is gonna have all the books I read in April and May just because I moved and things got kind of crazy towards the end of April. I decided to just combine the 2 months and do that later, so those are actually going to stay there. I think these are gonna stay here for now because it's my journal, a word search, and my Bible. I feel like that's just nice to have it like easy access right there. I don't know. Now these bottom 2 shelves are where things get a little iffy. I don't exactly know how I want to organize this. I don't know if I want to do it in chronological order of when I read the books or if I want like all my series on one shelf. I'm not entirely sure. I think we'll start by doing it chronologically to the best of my ability because I don't have my little tracker in front of me, but I think I read them something in like this order. Okay, so that would be it for this cart, and obviously as the year goes on and I read more of my own books, this cart will get even more full, so I think I'm gonna keep it like this. In my head, this works, and I can just like easily grab all of the books that I read this year. We have officially made it to the big bookshelf. This is the one that is definitely going to take me the longest, although I will say I have a vision for it at the moment. I think this shelf will mostly stay the same. There's a couple things I want to change about this shelf, but then I want to have an area for the rest of my 2025 TBR, even though I had honestly mostly finished it. And then I want to have an area that is just series, and then I also want to have an area of books that I haven't hauled yet because I like to like hold on to the books that I buy and then just do like one big haul. So I want to have an area for that as well. And then I think the rest of the books I will just separate by genre, and then we'll see what that looks like. I feel like that makes the most sense, at least to me. I definitely want all of my series to go together. That's one thing that I have just been looking at the shelf and being like, oh, I wish all of my series sat together, especially because in my brain it's hard to keep track of all of the series that I'm in the middle of. Even though I try to write them down, sometimes I forget, you know? So I just want to have them all together. So I'm going to start by taking the books out and then just organizing them on the floor. Okay, I separated out all of these books to the best of my ability. The piles kind of look a little bit crazy, but let me explain. First off, crazy that my biggest pile is classics, okay? I don't know how that happened. Probably because I buy them because they're pretty and then I don't actually read them because not my favorite genre to read, but that's okay. And I have one poetry book. This is all romances. And then that's all nonfiction. This is mystery and thrillers. This, I believe, is all historical fiction. And then this is general fiction. I will say I didn't really look up most of the genres. Some of them, if I were iffy on, I looked them up. Most of them I just didn't look up because it's not that deep to me, you know? And then these rows are all books that go with series. So some of them you can see I have the series for. Some of them are just like the last books out, or I don't have the rest of the series. But I still, for some reason, really want them all to just go together. Also, while I was doing that, I discovered I had a whole stack of books that I actually have read already that I need to go put away. Oh, speaking of, here's that copy of 1984 that I was talking about that has a bunch of annotations and stuff in it from both me and my sister when we read this in high school. So I'm gonna go find a spot for all of these books out in the other built-in bookshelf. And then I did also go to Target just now and I got 2 more books. Honestly, Target, you got me with your marketing campaign, okay? Because a lot of the time they do buy one get one half off, and so when I went it was buy one get one half off, and so I was like, you know what, that means I have to buy 2 books. But I went in there specifically for Fearless because I have this on my library app, like the Libby app, but my loan expires tomorrow and I'm only like 38% of the way through, and this is a pretty thick book, so I just know I won't be able to finish it by tomorrow. So I went for that one, and then I ended up picking up another book, so I was like, it's buy one get one half off, I have to. It's like throwing away money if I don't, you know what I mean? So I did get Happened One Summer, and I wanted to show you this because I think it's so funny that this morning I was like, oh, I only have 1 book with sprayed edges. That's kind of why I wanted to keep Onyx Storm like on display. This one is like a little special edition of It Happened One Summer with sprayed edges. That's so exciting. Now I have 2 books with sprayed edges, and the inside of this one is so cool. I'm just obsessed with this, okay? Very excited that I went and picked this up. Again, wasn't planning to purchase this, but I did want to purchase this. I ended up putting that stack of books away, so I think I'm finally done touching these shelves. I ended up putting some of them in this corner, so I actually really like how this shelf turned out. It looks a lot more full now that I have books in that corner. And then down on this shelf, I ended up putting a couple books there as well. So these shelves are officially done. It is officially time to put all of my books away. Okay, I think I finally have the shelf organized how I like it. I actually like it more than I thought I would. I've talked about how the shelf is a little challenging for me to organize because I actually can't fit most hardbacks up and down on the shelf, and the shelf. So you'll notice all of the hardbacks I have on these shelves are sitting horizontally instead of vertically. That is why it's not a choice. It is simply because they don't fit on these shelves. I actually think that this was not a bookshelf originally. I think that it was like a china cabinet because you can kind of see where there are lines where like panes of glass would have gone to close this off and put china inside of it. Because although this bookcase is older, I don't feel like books have gotten that much thicker to the point where like it would not have stood up and down like this. I don't know if that's even making sense, but that's my working theory because this bookshelf is very old. I have no idea where it came from. It's very old. Starting off on the top here, I have mostly all of my series and all of the series that come in these little like box sets because you can kind of tell I'm pretty tall and I'm taller than the bookcase. So I like to be able to use this vertical space, and I use that by putting all of my book sets on top of here. So I've got all of Divergent, all of Good Girls Guide to Murder, and I of course have my Barbie People magazine because I'm obsessed with Barbie. I actually bought this magazine on the way home from New York, so I bought it in the airport, so it has like double sentimental value. I put it there. I don't know if it'll stay there, but I do like how that looks. And then to the side it's a little bit hidden, but I have both the ACOTAR series and the Throne of Glass series. And And then I've got this little fake plant from Wayfair. And then this stack here seems kind of random, but it is my entire 2025 TBR. I've actually been so good about reading through that TBR, so I'm very excited. And I like having this visual here like this so I can kind of see, okay, these are all the books that I have left on my 2024. Wait, do I keep saying 2024? It's 2025. Anyways, these are the books I have left on my 2025 TBR. And then we'll go down to this shelf. Like I said, it was a little bit more difficult just because of the way that these shelves fit. Like I can't adjust the height or anything of them. So it was a little bit harder to keep all of the genres together, but I did it for the most part. This is all the romance books I have. It's actually a smaller section than I thought it would be. And then I have this cute little trinket. It used to be my dad's, so he let me take it with me. And I just thought it went perfectly with all of my romance books, so I actually really like how that turned out. And then I've got this little section of nonfiction here. Nonfiction is definitely a genre I'm trying to branch out into. My goal was 10 nonfiction books this year. I think I've read maybe 3. I think that that's my whole thriller mystery section. I kind of grouped them together, and then I believe we move on to fiction and historical fiction are on this shelf. They're kind of mixed together because, like I said, I had a little bit of a harder time keeping everything separate. And then I decided to put Magnolia Parks into the dark on this shelf as well, facing out, mostly because I like when my bookshelves look very full, and I feel like facing out books helps them do that. So I've got that there, and then another little sentimental kind of trinket thing. This is actually something my sister made out of my grandma's old jewelry. So love that there. Next shelf we were talking about earlier with all of my classics. I don't know how I ended up with this many, but alas, I have a ton. So I have all of my leather-bound classics over to the side here. I would consider these all classics, even though technically this is poetry, this Tennyson to Whitman. It says the Harvard classics, so I don't know, I'm including it here. I'll know where to find it because it's leather-bound, but love these. I've actually gotten a couple of these from used bookstores / thrift stores. This one has Jane Eyre, which is mostly why I got it, but it's also from a thrift store. I just love books like this. Old with a lot of character. If I can find books like this at the thrift store, I'm gonna pick them up. But this one was like a bonus because I've actually been wanting to read Jane Eyre. But like I kind of alluded to earlier, I don't read classics that much. They're kind of harder for me to read and get into and really enjoy. So yes, I continue to buy them, but they sit on my TBR for a lot longer than most books would. Anyways, I do really like fairy tales. I have 2 different fairy tale books that are leather bound. And then I also have Wicked, which I thrifted that as well. And then Little House on the Prairie. I've got the first 5 books in a little leather-bound copy. And then these Penguin Edition classics, the cloth-bound ones, obsessed with how they look. Like, I just love them so much. These are the ones that I have left to read along with Sense and Sensibility. I got the entire set of Jane Austen books for Christmas. I think it was actually last year at this point. Yes, it was definitely last year at this point. So they've been sitting there for a while, but I don't even mind because they're just so beautiful. And then a couple more classics. And then this is kind of like an overflow from this shelf. I believe, other than To Go Set a Watchman, which I also consider a classic because it's also Harper Lee, but I think this is historical fiction and general fiction, I think maybe. And then I've got the entire Anne of Green Gables series, except somehow I'm missing book number 3. I don't know how that happened, but that kind of starts the rest of my series. Had to bring you down so you could actually see what was going on here, but like I said, Anne of Green Gables is the start to all of my series. And then I have the entire Lightning Thief series, which I think I might have read these books at some point, but I actually can't remember. So if you want me to do a dedicated reading vlog with these books, I definitely will. Just let me know. And then I have the rest of the Cinder series, which this one's a reread, and then I never ended up reading these 2 books when I originally read them in, I think maybe middle school when I originally read them. But I've been slowly rereading that entire series, and then also slowly rereading the entire Maze Runner series as well. So I have 2 of those books here. The Slated series, or Fractured series? No, it's Slated. These books are out of order, and I can't remember the actual order on the top of my head, so I'm not going to change them right now. But this series I used to love in middle school. Same with Uglies, which when they came out with the movie, I put this on my physical TBR. Like, I moved it from like my read books to my physical TBR because I was like, I want to reread this book before I watched the movie, because I remember loving this book so much in middle school. And then I've got a couple other series here that I just have like singular books for. Sorry if there was an angle change. My camera died. But basically I was just saying that the rest of these books are all books that I need to haul. Because like I said earlier, I've been setting them aside so that I can do one big book haul rather than just a bunch of like little book hauls. I like to just do one big one. So I've been setting all of these books aside so that I remember what books go in that video. video. But that is it. That is my entire bookshelves, I guess, now that I have more than one. I used to just have this one, and then I had some shelves like on the wall in my old house. Now I have two big bookshelves, and I feel like I am almost full, which is crazy because I feel like I gained a bookshelf and yet it's just still so full. But that is a good problem to have. I love to be surrounded by books, as you can probably tell. But I hope you all enjoyed this video. Don't forget to comment, like, and subscribe, and I will see you in the next one. Bye!